Hi comic book fans, and welcome to 2022 for my first video. And I am going to do a couple of videos, 2 or 3 videos about who is Captain Marvel. This has been triggered by a purchase that I made just prior to Christmas. I have shown these comics. I showed these comics on my Christmas present show. And they have triggered me to do a bit of investigation into Captain Marvel, and it's a really interesting history. So up on the screen at the moment, and today's episode, I'm going to take us from 1938 through to 1953 in the Captain Marvel story. So what's triggered this, as I said, it was my purchase of these 3 comics just before Christmas. They are British reprints of Whiz comics from the 1940s. So this is from a company called Fawcett. The American company was called Fawcett Productions. And they were the original producers of Captain Marvel, who appeared in their flagship comic called Whiz Comics. These 3 issues here, this one's great. It's got a picture of the Marvel family here, and the second issue I acquired was this one. The Missing Persons Machine. This is number 60, in which Captain Marvel tangles with the Missing Persons Machine. As I said, these are from the American comics, came out in 1945, and these British versions also came out in 1945. At this time, Captain Marvel was hugely popular. And I think the print run for the American versions of this was something like 1.4 million copies. Obviously the British version not so much, so my British versions of this are much rarer than the American versions. And here's the 3rd issue that I picked up, again it's the British version, number 63 of Whiz Comics. So these are the 3 comics that have sort of led me into looking at the history of Captain Marvel. And here you can see, this is the back of the first one that I showed you, which was the reprint of Whiz 69. And this is really the only reference to the fact that this has been produced in the UK. And it says printed in England and published by L.Miller and Son Limited, Hackney. L.Miller and Son actually started up in 1953, so this is quite early for them. This is 1945, and they acquired the rights to reprint the Fawcett publications. They were taking advantage on the ban of printed matter being imported into the UK during and after the Second World War, which actually went on until 1959. So they began reprinting the Captain Marvels from Fawcett. So far, so good. Now then, just to go back into history a bit. So this is a copy of Action Comics number 1. This is the most expensive comic in the world. I think a copy sold for $3.2 million in the middle of 2021. And it is the first appearance of Superman. Now, let's have a look at this next one, which is Whiz Comics number 1. So Superman first appeared in June 1938. Not long afterwards, less than 2 years afterwards, we get Whiz Comics number 2, which is the first appearance of Captain Marvel, and you can see it's dated February 1940. Now, some similarities here. Superman is lifting up a car and smashing it. Oh, Captain Marvel is lifting up a car and smashing it. So in 1941, National Comics, which is what the name was of the company before it was called DC Comics, sued a number of other comic producers for copying Superman. and a couple of people just gave in and stopped producing them. Wiz Comics actually had a character that they stopped producing. However, by the time the lawsuit had come in on Captain Marvel was hugely popular. It was their top selling item, so they didn't want to stop. So in 1941, National Comics started a lawsuit against Fawcett, saying that Captain Marvel was basically a copy of Superman. This is a very famous lawsuit which went on for 12 years until 1953. Wiz Comics was hugely successful, and in 1941, they actually produced the first ever superhero movie. The Adventures of Captain Marvel, and as it says, the greatest serial of all time. And here we got another poster for The Adventures of Captain Marvel, and this was a 12 series film with Tom Tyler and Frank Coughlin Jr. And it was sort of pretty revolutionary film at the time. We saw Captain Marvel flying. It is the first superhero movie, and it sort of reflects upon how popular Captain Marvel had become. It says based on the character in Wiz Comics magazine. You can actually go and find this on YouTube. The full 12 chapters of Captain Marvel are on YouTube. I've watched the first chapter. It's watchable. And if you're a comics book fan or a fan of superhero movies, it's a bit of history. Here again, here's the character, here's the guy playing Captain Marvel. Right. So, very, very popular character during the mid-1940s. But in 1953, I'll come on to this in a minute, in 1953, after a 12-year lawsuit, National Comics won against Fawcett, and Fawcett, as a result, shut down all of their superhero comics. They fired all their creative staff, and basically Captain Marvel stopped. So let's go back to L.Miller and Son in England. So what did they do? Because they were reproducing the Captain Marvel comics in the UK, and they were pretty popular in the UK as well. So L.Miller and Son decided to employ an artist writer called Mike Anglo to produce their own version of Captain Marvel, which they called Marvelman. Now I think this one here, volume 1, number 25, I'm not sure why it's number 25, but I think this is the first appearance of Mike Moran, who is Marvelman. And instead of using Shazam as his word to become Captain Marvel, he uses the word atomic backwards, spelled with a T. So it's Kimota turns him into Marvelman. Now this was, I think this is the longest running British produced superhero magazine. It was produced weekly, and there were 346 issues of this, and there were also 346 issues of Young Marvelman and 30 issues of Marvelman Family. Right, so that's as far as I'm going to take the detail in this video. I am going to produce probably another 2 videos about Captain Marvel and who he is. And there's another early Marvelman here. This is number 32. I'm going to explain how these people became involved in the story. That's Alan Moore. That's Todd McFarlane who gets involved as well. And also getting involved in this story is Neil Gaiman. And how do we end up with this? So here is a Marvel character called Captain Marvel. How did that happen? And why has DC's character now called Shazam? And what on earth, what is this? What is Miracleman, and how is he related to all these other Captain Marvels and Marvel men? You can find out by watching my second episode of Who is Captain Marvel. Enough said.